Hello viewers, in today's module we bring to you introduction and summary of the poem Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Fire and Ice is a popular poem by American poet Robert Frost. It was written and published in 1920, shortly after the First World War, and weighs up the probability of two differing apocalyptic scenarios represented by the elements of the poem's title. The speaker believes fire to be the more likely world ender of the two and links it directly with what he or she has tasted of desire. In an ironically conversational tone, the speaker adds that ice, which represents hate and indifference, would also be great as a way of bringing about the end of the world. Despite its light and conversational tone, Fire and Ice is a bleak poem that highlights human beings' talent for self destruction. The poem is a work of astrology writing about the end of the world and poses two possible causes for its end fire and ice. The speaker uses these natural elements as symbols for desire and hatred, respectively, arguing that both emotions left unchecked have the capacity to destroy civilization. Speaker begins by relating that when it comes to how the world will end, some people favor fire and some ice. At the early stage of the poem, these two elements could easily relate to a natural disaster. For example, a potential world ending fire would be something like the asteroid that most likely destroyed the dinosaurs, and ice could relate to the future ice age or the extinguishment of the sun. But as soon as these two naturalistic ends to the world are suggested, the poem changes direction and makes it clear that fire and ice are symbols not of natural disasters but of humans' ability to create disaster of its own. By fire, the speaker actually means desire, and from the speaker's limited personal experience, the speaker knows desire to be powerfully destructive force. The speaker in the poem weighs up two different scenarios for the end of the world. Some people think the world will end in fire, whereas others think ice is more likely. Based on the speaker's experience with desire, he or she tends to agree with those who believe fire is more likely scenario if the world were to end twice. However, the speaker feels that based on his or her knowledge of human hatred, ice would be an equally powerful method of destruction and would do the job sufficiently. Humanity then would bring about the end of the world through passion, anger, violence, greed, and bloodlust. Indeed, the fire now seems like an image of warfare too. Indeed, the poem was written shortly after then end of World War One. The speaker also feels that human beings' capacity for destruction is so great that it could bring about this destruction more than once. This is tongue in cheek, of course, at once would certainly be enough. Here, the speaker represents ice as another method for ending it all, aligning it with hatred. Human destruction does not have to be bright, noisy, and violent. Hate can spread in more subtle ways. Ice has connotations of coldness and indifference. And so, a possible reading here is that the end of the world could be brought about by inaction rather than by some singular major event. A contemporary reading could map climate change onto ice here. If people fail to act over humanity's effect on the climate, it will gradually be assuringly bring about destruction. So, fire and ice, though utterly different in the literal sense, here represent one and the same thing, the destructive potential of humanity. Either method will suffice to bring about inevitable end of the world. In just 9 short lines, Fire and Ice offers a powerful warning about the human nature. Finally, it's important to notice something that isn't in the poem, any hint of possibility that humanity won't end the world. See where this theme is active in the poem. Thank you. Please subscribe to the channel